fancy.
Hey there and howdy, and welcome to Retro Repair Roundup, episode 67, it says on the screen. Welcome to the show tonight. Again, thank you all for spending your time with us this Sunday evening. We do appreciate you dealing with our wackiness and craziness. Remember to hit the like button and the subscribe button and all that stuff if you like our stream tonight. If you're not subscribed, do the thing, and so we know who wants to listen to this crazy whack-a-mole.
You're underselling it. I mean, I can't believe that we've only got 7 crazies this week. Come on,
dude,
it's way crazier than that.
So there's a reason I don't do public speaking. Anyway, moving on. So we have a wonderful string of people here tonight. Of course, we have our standard 4 hosts, and we have our wonderful guests. We got me, we got Javier, we have Trina, we have Ron, and our wonderful, awesome guest, Jeremy Parish. Thank you for stopping by. Before we dig into anything, quick housekeeping. Let's say hi to everybody in the chat. We've got Curtis Boyle, Everything Broken Garage, 80386, Garth Jack, 2K, Thomas, 1-Bit, Mike Sloopy, Ian. There's Ian, Mr. Polpo. How you doing? Scrolling. Trina, what are you doing in the chat? CDI, and other people, I'm sure, who are just to say
and hey, David Starbuck, who just joined.
Hi, David. So let us, without further ado, dig right in and talk to our wonderful guest, Jeremy Parish. Jeremy Parish, you're a retro gaming journalist, YouTuber, published author, and all of that. So why don't you give everybody a real quick intro, and then we will dig into talking to you about talking things.
Sure. Let's see. I'm Jeremy Parish. I have my day job at Limited Run Games, doing print-related things for a video game publisher, which is a little bit of a weird fit, but it works. On the side, I have the Retronauts Podcast, which I founded a very long time ago and now co-host. I have my NES Works, etc. video series that publishes every Wednesday on YouTube, and various and sundry other things as I have time to deal with them. But previously, before all of this, I was in the games press. Got my start at oneup.com back when it first launched. Contributed to a bunch of the magazines there, like Electronic Gaming Monthly. Be sure to jump in on that Kickstarter they're doing to bring back EGM and get the print archive running. Yeah. When that was shut down, I jumped over to IGN, where they wanted me to do marketing, and I said, oh no. So then I jumped over to Launch US Gamer, and then the games press started to change a lot, and I realized it wasn't really what I had signed up for. So now I'm just doing this independent stuff and working in publishing.
Cool.
Nice. Cool. Well, I'm very, very appreciative that you have kept on with the series as long as you have, because it's so encyclopedic. Especially there's a lot of times where you'll be like, sorry to get in the weeds on this, and that's always the best part of every.
Are you talking about the NES Works series? Yeah,
NES Works, or the I'm gonna say it wrong, the Segaijin, kind of.
Segaiden?
Yes, sorry, thank you. Yeah, I love that stuff. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks. The vision there was always, it was supposed to be about Game Boy, but the idea was always to create a very long-term, comprehensive history of games and the things surrounding them. And it took a long time for that to actually get to a point where people could watch it and say, oh, I see. So, after 7 or 8 years of doing it, I think people finally started to cotton on to it. But now I think most people kind of get where I'm going with it. And, I'll keep doing it until I run out of steam, sometime in my 80s or 90s, I hope.
You also left out probably one of your your most storied sort of achievements is being a Hitchhiker's Guide aficionado. It's
Oh, you like the
as we
subtle
can
little
tell,
reference there?
yes, I do
Yes,
like that.
yeah. That's just what the psychiatrist said about me. I'm just this guy, you know.
Is this guy,
Um,
no?
Yes, there's that, and I have been known to hitchhike through the galaxy with my towel. I know where it is.
Yes, that's good.
Awesome. So to dig right into your history a little bit, I'm curious, when did you get started in console gaming? Or were you like a lot of us, like when you were a kid, or was this a later development? Or
Yeah, so when I was a kid, the current consoles that were out on the market were Atari 2600 and Intellivision. My family couldn't really afford those, but once the console industry crashed, RIP, very sad, but it was great news for me because suddenly my family could afford them.
Mhm.
I had a ColecoVision,
same.
86,
Yeah.
a Coleco Atom. That was kind of the
Nice.
stealth Trojan horse. It was like, oh, we can get a computer, and also it has to
Yeah.
have video game system powering it, so we might as well get some video games too. But about a year later, the NES really sort of started to kind of show up in people's homes and in stores, and all of my friends ended up getting one. So like Christmas 1987, I think, right after that I got an NES, and that was pretty much it for me. My first game that I bought for it was Metroid, and that pretty much sealed my destiny right there.
Mhm.
Nice.
You were either extremely frustrated or were just like, I'm all in on this.
Mhm.
So, the thing about Metroid is obviously the NES itself came with Super Mario Brothers, and I'd played a lot of games with, friends. I'd played all kinds of arcade games. So I approached Metroid thinking, oh, this is going to be like Mario. I'm running left to right. And then I got to a point where I couldn't. And
Yeah.
so it was just kind of decrypting what I was supposed to do. And I think I had the game for maybe like a month and a half, 2 months before I really figured out. I accidentally figured out that if you bomb certain places when you're tucked into a
Mhm.
ball, you can open up passages, and that wasn't intuitive. And I don't know how I figured that out. I think I was just annoyed and frustrated because I couldn't get
Mhm.
anywhere. And all of a sudden, like the entire world opened up to me, and I beat the
Yeah.
game pretty quickly after that. So it was just kind of like overcoming that obstacle right there. And the
Mhm.
only reason I could even do that is because that was the only video game I owned. I'd played Super Mario
Mhm.
so many times at my friend's house, I was tired of it. So
Right.
it's just like I had this, I spent all my money on the NES and Metroid, and I needed to get my money's worth out of it because it was going to be a long time before I could afford anything else.
Mhm.
And it just, I didn't have anything else to do, so
Yeah.
I figured out video games at that point.
But that's exactly what the people that made those games were like. Because you read these interviews all the time where it's just like, as a kid, there wasn't much to do. So we would just go out and explore. And then you find a cave and you would go inside and you would poke around and you knock down a little dirt wall and there's more things to explore on the other side. And just
Mhm.
that whole thing of just like being a kid and going out and not knowing what the rules are. I think that was such a valuable thing where if you looked at it with a very analytical mind, you would be like, oh, well, these games are designed like this.
Mhm.
Like Mario, there's a very clear path to go there. There might be like a warp zone or something, but not that you couldn't just like push through a barrier or like how a lot of speedrunners where it's just you'll take damage, like a damage boost to reach a new area or things that maybe even the programmers didn't think about. But that no rules, no limits, just explore and do things. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's actually kind of wild to think about now that I'm sitting here. Eventually I realized Metroid is really big, and to make my way through it, I got some graph paper from my
Yeah.
geometry class and
Mhm.
started drawing just like one grid square per screen. And now I'm actually doing that as part of my day job. I'm working on the Castlevania Dominus set and still have to
Mhm.
do the map for Order of Ecclesia. So this right here, this is going to be this page right here is actually going to be the background drawing of the castle for Dawn of Sorrow, which I'm going
Wow,
to do tomorrow. So
that's awesome.
yeah, hand drawn maps. I've been doing them for almost 40 years at this point,
Yeah.
and somehow, weirdly enough, my parents would never have believed it back in the day, but I turned it into a paying gig.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
You're
Love
never
it.
gonna get anywhere with this video game stuff. You listen to me. I'm gonna be.
You know,
somebody.
they were actually pretty okay with me. My grades didn't suffer because of video games. I didn't lose all my friends or anything, so they were fine with it. But still, like, I don't think they saw it going anywhere. I didn't see it going anywhere.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't see myself, however many years, like 36 years down the road, spending time at my office desk drawing maps of Castlevania.
Yeah, I never saw this esports thing explode. I mean, as somebody who in the 90s would just pick up your early Pentium PC and head to a LAN party or something like that, never saw any of this getting to this level, but it's just amazing. It's amazing like how this has all come together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we talked a lot about the NES in this segment. So I'm going to make a guess to the answer to this question, but I'm going to let you answer it.
Okay.
What's your favorite console, or maybe your favorite game? Maybe those are two questions. Maybe this thing same.
I think those are two different questions. Do handhelds count as consoles?
Yes.
System, whatever you want to call it.
I actually think my favorite system is the DS.
Yeah.
If I had to pin it down to one, and a lot of that, I mean, I have a lot of fond memories of the NES, Super NES, PlayStation, but the DS was kind of where I staked out my territory in the games press. Like, it came out, and when the DS first launched, it was dire. No one expected anything from that, and I said, "Oh, it's an interesting little weird system. I like Nintendo games, and they're not going to be with us much longer. So I'm just going to follow this new age Virtual Boy all the way down until it goes out of circulation in a year." And so I started really covering that on 1UP, and it never actually went away. And I kind of got my foot in the door, doing a lot of writing in magazines and doing a lot of interviews with game developers about DS games. And it's just so much of my time was spent with DS and doing previews and import coverage and reviews and things like that. And when the day was over and it was time to just kick back and relax, I would sit down and scratch my way maps through Etrian Odyssey or something. And it just it was just a system that could just sort of expand to take up all of my time, and there were so many great games on it that I was happy to let it.
Oh yeah.
But my favorite game
How many
of all
thousands
time,
of games? How many thousands of games came out for the DS?
If we're talking all regions, I don't know. I would guess probably let's say 2,700. Someone can look that up on Wikipedia, but I'm just going to throw that out there. I have no idea if that's anywhere accurate. But I feel like
insane amount.
When you start looking at the stuff that came out in Japan, it sold 20 copies. No one's ever heard of it. You're getting into the thousands of games for sure.
Oh yeah,
3,468.
Wow, I underestimated. Okay, a lot of games.
Yeah,
I did not play them all. I played a lot, but not all of them.
Well, I'm looking forward to the the DS Works. You'll finish it like next life.
I mean, I average like 2 games per episode, with 1 episode per week. So that would take me 1,700 weeks. How many years is that? That's
yeah,
like 300 years. I know. I can't do that. But you did ask what my favorite
32.
game was.
Yes, 32 years.
32. Oh, is that all? Oh, okay. I mean, I could get started.
Not that bad.
yeah.
I'd still be alive probably in 32 years, barely.
By the time you're done, you'll be like beaming YouTube straight into your brain.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone wants that.
No.
So I'm probably going to skip the DS Works. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is
All
your
right. So
favorite game?
what's that? Yeah.
That's
So there
what
was
is
a
your
question about my favorite game. I mean, can you have a favorite child? But I feel like the one that I love the most, that I can just go back to and enjoy, and it takes like 90 minutes to finish, or even less than that, is Bionic Commando for NES. Like that game just really, I was gonna say hooked me, but that sounds like a terrible pun, which wasn't intentional. But it just like it took me about an hour to figure out what was going on with it. But once I understood, it was just so liberating to swing around. And it had a really interesting story. I mean, I don't think anyone expected to watch Hitler's face explode on a Nintendo Entertainment System game. And after he cursed at you, it was just forbidden content. It was so saucy. So yeah, like, no, that game just made a great impression. And I've still never found another action game that has grappling that feels as good as it does in NES Bionic Commando. I would like for someone, I'm begging you, game developers, please just straight up rip off that physics model and make more of those games. Call it something else. Call it like Robot Warrior Soldier or something. I don't care, but I want that feel in more games. They haven't given it to us.
Yeah, I have lots of fond memories of that game too. One of my family friend had that, and I remember just watching him. I could never get the hang of it because it didn't have a jump button, and I was young and stupid. But I would watch him swing around on Bionic Commando with that super awesome music, just delicious. Yeah, it was great game.
It's a good one.
Yeah, you can't actually see it up on my shelf, but just out of view of the camera, I've got a Famicom Bionic Commando signed by both of the composers.
Oh, wow.
So that's a prize piece.
Cool. Javier.
Yeah, you got the next question.
Oh, sorry, I don't have the thing. Go for it.
Wake up, Javier! Wake up!
All right, I'll take over
Take it
Javier's
from me,
question.
please.
Yeah, I'll do Javier's question. Javier, just do mine. What got you started in podcasting?
This is going to sound very unexciting and uninteresting, but literally it was just some people at OneUp kind of discovered podcasting, and it was the very early days, like 2005 or so, and started tinkering with it. It was Jane Pinkard, who was our news editor at the time. And so she started putting together this little like weekly show where she would just talk to someone for 20 minutes. And after a while, someone in management said, oh, we should do some of those. And each publication should have its own podcast. So that was OneUp, the website, plus all the magazines, Electronic Gaming Monthly, Official PlayStation Magazine, Computer Gaming World, GMR. So they made all the editors for these magazines go in there and record, much to their resentment. Like they really hated the idea. They were like, this is such a stupid waste of time. But I thought it was kind of interesting. And I said, well, I'm not on a magazine, but I do like to cover the classic games. And that's something that these people are definitely not going to be talking about. So I just said we should throw together a podcast about classic games. I expected it to last for, half a dozen episodes before they said, okay, podcasting is a failure, we should stop. And it never actually stopped. So there have been some hiatuses for Retronauts and some regroupings and relaunches. But yeah, since we went independent and kickstarted it in 2013, we've been going strong, pretty much nonstop since then.
Cool.
Very cool. All right, Javier, you got the next question.
Again, I don't have the document. Sorry.
Well, you don't have the document.
All you have to do is go into Discord and click the link.
All right, so you guys keep talking. Let me look for it.
I will grab the next question. So apparently my name is Trina, so I'm going to ask the Trina question. What are some of the challenges of getting a show like Retronauts in front of the retro gaming community?
I actually can't answer that because I'm really bad at marketing. Like I said, when IGN said, oh, you should be like our marketing interface guy, I said, oh, no, I can't do that. I tried taking a job for a year before going to Limited Run doing marketing because I felt like it was something I needed to learn. And I just am not good at it. So we just put the podcast out there, and I think we were just very fortunate because it was part of the OneUp, kind of publications sphere, and it was part of this network of other podcasts that just sort of happened. So people would listen to the other OneUp shows and they'd say, oh, we should try out this one too. And some people liked it, some people didn't. But it really just kind of, I think, sort of drafted off the fact that it was attached to something established and something growing in the early days. So it was kind of really just a case of being at the right place in the right time. So I can't
Mhm.
really take any credit for any popularity that Retronauts has in terms of like reach and awareness, because there are lots of great podcasts out there put together by really smart, capable, charismatic people that just don't have as much of an audience, and that's not their fault. It's just, I was very fortunate to be part of something that was very sort of cutting edge and right there, sort of in the early days of gaming podcasts, right at the beginning. So I guess that's the secret, is like luck into something, and things will just go your way.
Jeremy, I wrote that question, and I was hoping that the answer was going to be that right place, right time. That's everything. But
Right.
then also being passionate about something and speaking to it at a level that is designed for people that are also passionate about it. And just by that finding like the audience, uh I always say all the time where it's just like the right people will get it, and I think that the right people did. And that's what
Mhm.
really lent a lot of the popularity to all of those podcasts, especially Retronauts, where it's just you can listen to people that are knowledgeable, that just and are absolutely passionate about the topic, and that you can't help but be excited by it as well.
Mhm.
That's great to hear. My actual experience during the one up days of the show was that no one liked it. Like all we ever got were complaints about, like British people complaining about how we pronounce Lara Croft's name, or that we don't talk enough about the ZX Spectrum and we call it
Right.
ZX Spectrum.
ZX
It was just
Spectrum,
it
right.
was just stuff like that. It was
Mhm.
like nothing positive about the show. It was really actually really discouraging, which is one of the reasons that I eventually said, I'm just going to hand this to someone else. But the funny thing is, we decided to reboot the podcast and kickstart it to go independent once
Mhm.
they shut down One Up. And that's, I think, when people kind of came out and were like, oh, why don't we actually express positivity about this? And I guess,
Yeah.
when you're doing a subscription model and people are paying like that right there speaks to their enthusiasm, because they're giving us money for this thing that we're doing. Like
Right.
that's
Yeah.
a tough ask. Um, but also I think when people are tuned into something and subscribing to something they enjoy, they are going to be more positive. Like the positivity is going to come out, and so that
Mhm.
makes it a lot easier to to deal with the carping and complaints. And people still complain about how we pronounce Lara Croft's name, and that's fine. But my answer to that really has been to bring on more people to help host the show,
Mhm.
people with a broader knowledge base. Like we brought in an actual British person who can pronounce who can pronounce Lara's name right and talk about the spectrum. So that's just nipped that in the bud. No more of those complaints. Not a one since Stuart came on. So yeah, that's we've kind of it's taken us 16, 17, however many years to kind of come, 18 years I guess now,
Wow.
to no 16 years to come around. But eventually we got it right. So perseverance, I guess, that's the
Yeah.
real secret. Sticking around for 16 years.
Cool.
Well, that comes to the question that I finally gonna ask is what inspired you to start the work series of consult and game documentations video series?
So that was something that I wanted to do for a long time. I wanted to create like a comprehensive, really at the time it was going to be a website about the full NES library, and I tinkered around with different ideas and concepts, and none of them really came together. And then I discovered the Crontendo series, and it was amazing. And at the same time, there was a guy who was already doing what I wanted to do, which was to totally cover the full extent of the NES library, but he did it in video form. And I said, that's it, that's the format. Oh, but he's already doing the NES, so what's something that's underserved that I know a lot about and would love to explore in greater depth? How
Mhm.
about Game Boy? So I basically just ripped off his format and applied it to Game Boy. Like I'm not denying that or shy about it in any way. Like NES Works owes its existence entirely to Crontendo, because I liked that format a lot. It was, I tried alphabetical and a few other ways to organize stuff, and it just never worked. But that chronology where you see the evolution and you see the development and growth of these games, that really appealed to me. The one thing that I did want to do differently from Crontendo was I felt like his format of doing 15 games per episode really kind of wore on him, and it was pretty obvious even by the time I started this 10 years ago that was kind of taking its toll on Dr. Sparkle. So I said I'll just do one game per episode, and eventually I realized I'm never going to get anywhere if I just do one game a week, so I started doing 2 to 3 unless it's a really big notable game. But eventually after doing Game Boy for about a year, I realized I keep talking about NES games and about the influence of NES games on these Game Boy titles. And a lot of these Game Boy games actually started on NES or have NES counterparts. So I really ought to do the NES thing also. But, I feel that by covering just the American chronology of games and also taking my own, just a different perspective on development, it still is something that stands distinct from Crontendo. So I don't feel like I'm just covering the same territory as him. And people have asked me to, keep doing more Famicom coverage, but I think he's got that in the bag. I don't need to do that. I'll just focus on NES and, all the other American consoles that came out following the NES's launch.
Joe.
Yeah, I know. I was just switching. I'm switching gears. Just to hold your horse.
And also,
I don't want you to be like me. That's it.
And also, let's give the guests, a chance to, get something to drink because
I'm
talking a lot. Yeah.
Besides, the next question's Trina's, not mine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yeah, it was Javier. Wait,
covered
did
two.
you switch? You switched it back to me.
I didn't switch anything back. I noticed that it said Joe, and I'm just like, okay.
Somebody switched it. That's fine. It doesn't matter.
We'll figure this out.
We have a very professional show, I promise. No,
We're only
so-
67 episodes in. Eventually, you guys will get it straight. It's fine.
And can I
200
pause it
episodes spectacular. It'll be fun.
Can I pause it for just a quick sec? Because I gotta dig something out here quickly.
No, keep
Time's
going.
up.
Keep going.
Time's up, Trina.
right,
So the
go.
work series of video games is pretty exhaustive, but it's not always in a chronological breakdown. Do you have a specific way you're deciding to pick those, or is it by the way you like it, or what piqued your interest at that time, or?
Are you talking about the different platforms that I focused on?
Well,
Because
platforms,
within-
and then I know
within-
you have done like a chronological kind of thing sometimes, but occasionally it seems like there's been an episode or two where it's like this kind of piqued your interest and you'll jump to it because it'll be like, there's a lot of things that kind of reference or kind of chime along with some of these other like games on different platforms. And so it's like, maybe it makes sense to talk about this now.
So within each individual platform, like NES, Game Boy, Sega Master System, I've tried to go as chronologically as possible. Sometimes I'll shift things around a little bit, which I don't feel too bad about because release dates back in the day were very fluid and very inconsistent from, one side of the country to the other. But within each platform, I try to be really pretty directly chronological. But in terms of tackling different systems, I have like jumped ahead to Virtual Boy or something, and really that's just because I had the opportunity. Chris Kohler was like, hey, I've got the full Virtual Boy set, you should, some of these games are really expensive, I want to do something with them, so why don't you do a video on them? So I took that opportunity. It was 22 games, no problem. But a lot of I am doing a lot of stuff sort of peripheral to NES at this point. Like I've just put together another Atari 7800 video, and there was an Intellivision that's been video modded that came in the mail today. I don't intend to tackle pre-NES consoles in their entirety, but I would like to talk about the games that came out after the NES launch for something like Intellivision or 2600, because that's an area of video games that people really don't talk about very often. So that's interesting to me, but also, what I really want to do is paint a picture, a chronology of the history of console games, really kind of starting with the NES. And I feel increasingly that to do that, you need to look at everything else that was out there, even if these games weren't necessarily in conversation with each other, like the NES and the Atari 7800 or Atari XE game system, those systems did not interface or communicate with each other in any way. There was no development crossover to speak of. But nevertheless, if you were out there shopping for video games in 1987, 88, it's not like you were just going and the only games out there were Nintendo and Sega. There were all these other systems being sold at the time, and you had to make a decision. If you had a limited budget like I did, Atari 2600 could be kind of alluring because the games were selling for like 15 or 20 bucks, and NES games were selling for 40 to 50. The systems were cheaper. So, there was that sort of siren call of, wow, I can get a lot more games for my bucks. But at the same time, all my friends had NESs. So that was kind of the social peer pressure. And the games on NES were more interesting and more advanced. But it was tough choices, and that was part of the full console gaming experience in 1987, 88. So I do really want to, over time, paint that picture. And really right now what I'm doing is kind of building up to, NES has already gotten there, the other chronologies, building up to the autumn of 1989, where the 16-bit systems came on the scene. I really want people to kind of see what was out there at the time that those systems launched, because I feel like if you've seen everything that's on NES up to, mid 1989, everything that's been on Sega, everything that was, being sold for Atari and so forth, those first Genesis games are going to hit really hard. They're going to be like, wow, Altered Beast, not actually much of a game, but goddamn, look at that. That is so cool.
Yeah.
So I really, really want to convey that. And also, TurboGrafx, it was so much more impressive than any of these games. Why didn't it do anything? How did that fail so badly in the US? Kind of build that narrative and kind of dig into the mystery around that. So that's kind of, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's sort of the methodology, is that I'm really kind of using NES as the through line, and increasingly as I'm able to kind of pull in more and more of the things surrounding it. And ultimately, 5 years from now, I would like for people to be able to look and say, like, if I watch this video series, the YouTube playlist from start to finish, I'm really going to get a sense of what gaming was like from 1985 through 1990 in America. That's the goal.
All I'm going to say is Desert Falcon for the Atari 2600 was released in 88. A game that I still love to play.
I've already covered the 7800 version, but I will definitely talk about the 2600 version as well.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to things like Double Dragon on 2600, but by God,
No,
I'm going to get there. Actually, I've really been enjoying some of these side excursions. The Atari systems, the latter day Atari systems, were really just totally outside my experience. So it's been a journey of discovery for me. And just this past weekend, I put together an episode on super skateboarding and water ski for 7800, which are maybe not great games, but they're very interesting. And I feel like, that would have been an interesting experience to have played those back when they were new. As it is, I can just appreciate super skateboarding for the fact that it is a game that ships in a box that has a photo of a neon yellow skateboard, and emblazoned across the tip of the skateboard is the word rad. It's such, it is 1988.
So
It's like
just
peak
contained
80s,
on a
yes.
single box. It
80s.
is so perfect.
Yeah.
I love it.
you
Alright.
mentioned about those like late era Atari consoles. I actually worked for a company that was part of the Jaguar liquidation. And so it was like us and like some mail order places. And so we probably sold a couple thousand Jaguars and controllers and all kinds of stuff. The only thing that we did not get in our stuff was the Jaguar CD, just because those were in such limited numbers that those immediately went to the bigger retail people that were doing that. But we sold everything, and then about 3 months later, people started calling back in. Like, can we get the rest of the catalog? What other games are available? And it was like, no, like that was the whole thing. It was a bundle. It was like, here's the machine and like 6 games, and they were like, "Oh, there's nothing else being made for this," and I was like, unfortunately not. But people, it was like once they finally got around to playing it, they loved it.
Once they did the math.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
I will someday get to Jaguar, because one, my boss has the complete collection and is like, yeah, you can photograph this and record footage from
Yeah.
here. But also too, I own a Jaguar because a friend was out walking her dog and sent me a text message and a photograph and said, hey, I found all these video game systems in a pile on the curbside, I think for trash to pick up.
Oh god.
Should I get these?
Yeah.
Should I pull these for you?
Yes.
And one of them was a Jaguar in box. I was like,
Oh wow.
I
Oh my
need a
God.
trash Jaguar. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
This was like 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I sat down, plugged it in, and it worked perfectly. I figured, the first game I should get for this system should be Bubsy, because I did find this in the trash.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I sat down with a copy of Fractured Furry Tales, and it was
Mhm.
terrible, and it ran
Yeah.
perfectly. As much as anyone could say anything about that game is perfect, it did
Yeah.
run just right. So I'll get there eventually.
I mean, not complaining too much, but it is the Jaguar, right? For the British listeners, we have to put it out there.
I'm sure. Yes, I'll get all kinds of complaints in the comments.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess I'm up next.
Yeah.
Your video style has changed over the years. Sometimes pixelized SD images, other times HD. What inspires your production system?
I mean, I really loved the idea of using an actual VHS deck or like a camcorder to film myself. I don't think most people liked it. I was constantly getting complaints that it looked terrible, and people kept saying I should stop using that stupid VHS filter, evidently not realizing that it was just a really crappy JVC camcorder. But there was no such thing as a good camcorder back in the day. Those things were cheap, and everything always looked terrible, even at the time. So
Yeah.
it was authentic, but people did not seem to appreciate that. That thing started to kind of break down earlier, like about a year ago. And at the same time, the RetroTink 4K came out. So I said,
Yeah.
all right, I'm just going to go all in, get a 4K, like a still camera that's capable of shooting 4K video, because my still camera that I use for photography was also dying. So it was a very expensive time in my life. But that was just kind of, I'll give the people what they want. I'll go, nice, clean video, good lighting, etc. But my dream in my heart, I'm still there with the VHS, the crappy VHS quality. But people would say, like, this looks like you're being held hostage and sending a message like, do not try to find me, just leave money.
You have to tell the people Jeremy has to hold up today's newspaper, otherwise we're not sending the ransom money.
Yeah, exactly. And I for a long time I wasn't even on my videos. I didn't do the hosting segments. And I experimented with a few different styles, and I found that people, like the few times that I was on video for gimmicks, people really liked it for whatever reason. And over the pandemic lockdown, I had to do a lot of video conferencing, and I finally said, okay, if I'm going to be on video all the time, I might as well be on video all the time. So that's when I started to add that in, just because it seemed like this is kind of the way of things now, Zoom and Google Meets and things like that. So it was just kind of bringing the modern post-pandemic era into the NES era.
Yeah.
Cool. Are there specific details about the software and hardware setup you use to shoot your show you'd like to share with everybody?
Is it
pretty standard setup, or do you have like a special production process you use?
Yeah, one second. So I mean, the workflow that I used, on my computer is all pretty much just Adobe Premiere, Adobe Photoshop, brand graphics in Adobe Illustrator, page layouts in Adobe InDesign. Like I'm, in the bag for Adobe. It's kind of sad, but that's what we've got. But in terms of the actual production setup, I have made it overly complicated for myself, but that's because in part, there wasn't really a good, easy solution for recording high definition video of classic game consoles 10 years ago. When I started this, there was no Mister. There were none of these FPGA consoles. I actually got into doing NES because, it was something I thought would be maybe interesting to do, but how would I record stuff? And then, how would I get HD video of light gun games or ROB, because those don't work on LCD TVs. But then the analog NT, the original, came out, the one that was repurposed Famicom boards, and it was capable of putting out a really clean signal. And I found a CRT that could do a pass through to a recording device. So I said, you know what, I could actually do this, and I could actually get HD capture of Gyromite and Duck Hunt, and it won't be emulated. It'll be like running from hardware. And so I kind of built my system around what was available 10 years ago. And I could streamline it a lot and pretty much just run everything off Mister. But I do like using cartridges and discs and stuff when I can, just to, be sure I can get the accurate experience. Like yesterday, I mentioned I just put together a video on Super Skateboarding for 7800. To be able to get RGB video from 7800, you have to use a 7800 game drive from Retro HQ, which is a really great device. But I don't know that the ROMs always work correctly, because the music for Super Skateboarding didn't come through. The sound effects did, but it's supposed to have this like really annoying grating soundtrack, which, I don't mind it not being there, but it's still not totally accurate.
Right.
So it's always kind of a little bit of a toss up. Like, I'm trying to get the best and most accurate footage as possible, but there's going to have to be compromises, just because it's going through so many different setups. Like, to record NES, I'm using an analog NT Mini now, so it's the FPGA version, which is still very, very accurate. Like, original NES Famicom boards have glitches and bugs, so it doesn't bother me too much that there's like these edge cases on NT that don't necessarily work. But I'm still using my CRT because I do have to do light gun games and things like that. So I have that running through a how is this set up? So the video goes out into a SCART switcher. So one of the SCART outputs from the switcher goes to a CRT, and the other goes into the RetroTink, which then feeds into a 4K TV. So I can do monitoring in HD, 4K, but also actually play on the CRT and get that zero lag time, and be able to use light guns and stuff. So it's a slightly arcane setup, and every time I've had to move my office around, which has happened a lot since I moved to a new house about a year ago, and I'm still kind of getting my office set up, it's like an entire day of just trying to figure out, like, okay, this cable goes to that over there, and I think this is a JP21 SCART cable as opposed to a Euro SCART cable, so I put into this switcher, not switcher. So yeah, again, a lot of what I was I've built and spent a lot of money in was built around the FrameMeister, which was the best upscaler available 10 years ago. And that uses JP21 SCART as opposed to Euro SCART. So I still have a lot of systems running on JP21 cables, and I have a JP21 and Euro SCART switcher that one feeds into the other. So it's a big convoluted ball of disaster. If someone were to start doing this now, I would say go buy yourself a Mister and you're good. You can do digital out and analog out. Everything's awesome. It supports, light guns through Snack. You don't need to do all this stupid stuff that I've done, but at this point I'm in for a penny, in for a pound. And there are still some things that I can't capture through Mister. I put together the Virtual Boy series. You can't really do that. And I had an actual Virtual Boy with a video out mod that fed out to the TV so I could play that way. I've got an Atari XE game system. Some of those obscure Japanese systems that I've covered and published stuff for, like Super Cassette Vision and Casio PV1000. Those aren't really fully properly implemented in Mister. The Intellivision that I mentioned, you can't really do Intellivision on Mister yet. So you
What
start
about
getting
Channel F? That's the only console that matters.
I don't know if there's a Channel F core in Mister. I think there is, but
I would hope, because that would be the very best way to get video for
but
one.
I don't know that there is a snack adapter for the Channel F controller. Was that hardwired? I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, but what's great though is that the Nabu video or gaming console / streaming thing that kind of came out that was found in mothballed a couple years ago uses those controllers. So there's been a whole new batch of working Channel F controllers that have hit the market in the last few years.
But someone would still have to build a snack adapter for that, which I don't think anyone has.
Well, I guess you got to give them the right motivation.
The thing about Mister is that it's always getting better. It's kind of like, MAME was 20 years ago, where you just knew like there's going to be new stuff added to this every week. So eventually, 10 years from now, like I'm sure Mister will have everything up to, Saturn and PlayStation in 64. For the time being, like I still needed to do my weird, kind of off in the weed type stuff. So that was a long digression, but yes, that's it was messy and chaotic, just like my video setup.
Javier.
Yeah, I'll go there. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on the scarcity of some of big titles like Castlevania, Symphony of the Night, that never seem to pop up in compilation game collections for modern consoles?
Yeah, I don't know what Konami's problem is and why they won't put Symphony of the Night on Switch, but they really need to get their act together. Although I will say that there was Nocturne, the Nocturne collection that had Symphony of the Night. But I understand what you're saying, and yeah, one of the things that appealed to me about the prospect of working at limited run games is that they are really invested, especially at the top level. The CEO of the company is really invested in getting as many of these older games republished as he possibly can, and working there has really given me an appreciation of just what a logistical, legal nightmare that process actually is. Because like if you name a game that you would like to see reprinted, I guarantee you that someone at our company has looked into it and actually had talks about it, tried to figure out where the legal rights belong. It's difficult and complicated, especially when you have these companies that shut down. Who knows where the rights went, where they purchased in an auction, where they abandoned?
Yeah,
a lot of that is not documented, so it's rough. So I understand why a lot of games don't get republished, especially from smaller publishers. With big publishers like Nintendo, Sega, well, Sega's been pretty good about republishing pretty much everything. But like Konami, Capcom, I really feel like they owe it to their own legacies and also to their fans to really try to get these games republished as often as possible. And it's frustrating that they don't. I'm always grateful for something like the Dominus collection, where like I did not actually expect to see really DS games that have heavy touchscreen implementation revisited on modern systems. It's not a perfect experience, but Etrian Odyssey 1 through 3 made it out. So really kind of at this point, anything except maybe like Hotel Dusk, where you actually have to close the system in order to solve certain puzzles. Like, I feel like everything's on the table. So I really would like to see these publishers reprint stuff more. I will be honest.
You would do that sort of like with Star Tropics, where it was like, put the water on the letter. That I think of the Virtual Console version, it was like you would press, you had to do something like, I think it became finally like just press a key to dump water on it or whatever. Yeah. So
I think you had to like go out to the menu, didn't you? And or something. I can't remember exactly what, but
it actually sent you the letter through the mail system on the Wii or whatever.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. yeah, there are definitely solutions, and some companies are more creative than others. But yeah, it's frustrating when games disappear and you think, oh, I'd love to play that again, and the only way to play is to download it, without permission of the
Yeah.
property holders.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But in a lot of cases, like who are the rights holders for some of these games? The big companies we know, like Nintendo
Mhm.
games, they still belong to Nintendo, but you know some of the more esoteric NES or whatever, like who could say Famicom releases from a
Right.
company that published 2 games and then vanished?
Mhm.
I don't know who owns that stuff. No one knows. Maybe the Yakuza owns it. We don't know.
Mhm.
But it is maybe good that we don't always know who has like the full rights on it, because that limits the chance of there ever being a reissue of Incredible Crisis for the PlayStation.
That's something you don't want to see.
Actually, I that's one of the only games I kept when I got rid of all my PlayStation stuff.
Oh, so you're just trying to juice the value. I see how it
Yes.
is. Wasn't that Marvelous Entertainment though?
I think, and then Titus maybe handled distribution in the US at least. Yeah.
I can't remember what happened with Titus, but probably nothing good given the quality of their games usually.
Yeah.
All right, and the last question. How big is your retro gaming collection?
I actually I have a lot of games, but it's all just for documentation. And now that I'm in my new home and my new office, there's actually no space for this stuff, and I don't want to keep it on storage. So once I get everything photographed and scanned and whatever I need to do with it, I'm planning to let it all go. Like I'm going to keep a few games that mean something to me, like buying a Commando or Metroid or something. But honestly, I'm not really that tied to these games. I think I'll keep my DS and 3DS collections, but Switch maybe. But beyond that, I've kind of it's funny, like working at a company that publishes games physically. I kind of realize like these are just objects, and I don't necessarily need to own them. I hope my boss does not hear me say that, but yeah, like it's kind of.
Yeah.
I guess it's that I've actually managed to contribute to games now, so that's actually more interesting to me, is to be involved in the creative side of producing them than to just own them because they're out there. At this point, I like the stuff that I've helped to produce for limited run. I'm keeping that. Whether it's new games like Axiom Verge 2 or the retro games like the Ricky 8-bit games for Famicom, that like 8-bit Music Power and stuff. Like I had a hand in those, and those mean something to me now. So I guess it's that the definition of what makes a game meaningfully. Sorry, it's getting late. It's been a time change. The definition of what makes a game meaningful to me has shifted over the past few years, and I guess it's just more a factor of being on the creative side of things, which isn't to say I don't love games. I do. Like I love the experience of exploring all these, especially kind of offbeat, off the wall, esoteric games that I never played before. It's so cool. I love discovering things and exploring them and figuring out how these things fit together. But I don't necessarily need to own the object anymore.
Fair enough.
Fair
By
enough.
the way, Steve of Mac84, if you're listening, take note.
No. There is no printer virtual console yet. We have a friend that has like a huge collection of printers and old Macintosh stuff. So.
Yeah.
So I think we can take some questions from the audience. People have been posting those in the chat as we go, and I've been marking those. First one question that I have here comes from Ian Scott. He is the creator of the PicoGus virtual audio card, if you're familiar with that. And this is more of a comment than a real question. He's like, has Retronauts been around long enough for itself to be considered retro?
So our cutoff rule for talking about something not as being retro but being basically an established part of video game history is 10 years. So yeah, we passed that threshold several years ago.
I was going to say, are you following the car model, which is 25 years, but apparently not.
No, at 25 we become vintage nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you
Fair
go.
enough.
We're officially changing our name.
Yeah.
Curtis Boyle asks, do you ever have episodes or do episodes where you compare the various parts of the same game on a variety of platforms? And if not, is that something you're thinking about doing?
If you mean video episodes, no, that's the kind of thing that's sort of outside my purview. I really want to just focus on the chronologies. And I don't know, maybe I should do that. Like I'm thinking about some of the games that were published on 2600 and 7800, like Desert Falcon. And maybe it would have been easier if I just covered both of those under the same episode. But at the time, I didn't have access to 2600. So, I got to lie in the bed that I made 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Eric's Edge asks, he says his daughter is very interested in the lore around why games were created the way they were and the reasons behind design decisions, compromises. What were they thinking, basically? Yeah. And then Everything is Broken Garage asks, what are Jeremy's thoughts on the state of retro gaming, the rising costs, especially over COVID, and issues around archiving and publishers fighting it and physical media becoming a thing of the past?
Yeah.
That's a lot of questions and a lot of conversations to have. I will say that when I started Retronauts and started, before that covering classic games on 1UP, there wasn't really video game history coverage in the mainstream media. It just wasn't really done. Like occasionally you'd see a small retrospective or something at GameSpot, but the idea of dedicated coverage of classic games was just not something people really considered. And so, I kind of built my career in part around the novelty of what I was doing. Flash forward, 20 years from when I started. And I think it's great that there's so much coverage of retro gaming, that people are so enthusiastic about it. There's a younger generation of kids, like Zoomers, who play Minecraft and are like, oh, it's cool when video games are blocky. I love, Nintendo games from the 80s because they're blocky like Minecraft. It's a totally different, vector of entry than we could ever have conceived for getting into those games, but it's totally valid.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think a great game is always a great game. And if you're invested enough in it, the technology behind it doesn't really matter that much. So, I'm really excited about and just heartened by the fact that interest in classic gaming has only increased over time rather than fading away. And it goes through trends and cycles, and that's fine. I do wish that it were more accessible and affordable, kind of like from the straightforward legal perspective where you can just say, oh yeah, go do this thing and this is how you can play a lot of video games, as opposed to, yes, go download a bunch of games from archive.org that should not be there. But however you play classic games, they are out there. Like they're not going to be erased. I don't foresee any games except maybe like laser active games disappearing. So as much as I wish that publishers would really be open to republishing games and making them more available, I still feel like there are enough avenues, legal and otherwise, that people will continue to discover old games and find reasons to love them. And, that makes me happy. That's what I would love to see.
Awesome.
Great. Well, we've kind of come to the end of our.
I just wanted
wonderful-
to touch base with something.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
In regards to what Jeremy's been talking about, because I remember getting my first NES. I think it was '89 when I got mine, and one of the games that Santa bought for me with it. Oh, spoiler alert! Santa's not real.
You're kicked off this show, Trina.
You're
That's
gone.
it.
Oh, forget it. Lies.
was Dragon Warrior.
Mhm.
And I had obviously no idea what I was doing with it because, it came with Mario and I knew what a side scroller was, but what is this RPG thing? And I kept going up on like level 1 to try to defeat skeletons and just dying within one hit because I had, didn't know really what I was doing. But I fell in love with the game. And I had met somebody the following school year who was a walking like walkthrough, like the human. This was the days before the internet, so you can just go, I need a walkthrough for this game. So we would every lunchtime he would come down to my place and, okay, you need to do this, you need to get to this level to get to that spot, and blah blah. Just I fell in love with the game, and I fast forward to about early, I think it was 2000, 2001. I remember you could still send money orders because this is how I paid for it. I bought a Famicom from Japan and sent off because it had Dragon Quest, which was the original name for Dragon Warrior. What I didn't realize was there was no battery in the game. Because I'm like, I know this game well enough. I've played it gazillion times. I know what the characters are saying. I don't need to be able to understand the language. Because I was out doing my quest. I go back to the king and I'm like, hey, he's rambling. And then he stopped rambling and there was no yes or no pop-up menu. And I'm like, oh. So I had that fun. But yeah, Dragon
Did
Warrior,
you eventually figure out how to recite your mantras or your poem of resurrection?
Mhm.
It wasn't that intense back then.
Well, no,
Well,
that's how
yeah.
saving in the original Dragon Quest worked. Is you went to the king, and he would
Right.
give you like a poem to recite, and that's
I
how
see.
you like
Okay.
the password basically. Yeah.
I just turned it off and went, that's great. I'm going to go back to my NES copy because I still had an NES at the time and went, I can save.
Trina, I
But
wondered where you were going with this story because I understand that you had an onion on your belt, which was the style at the time. But
yeah, I remember paying for that with
Simpsons
a.
reference, it's fine.
I get it.
I remember paying for that with the money order. You could send the money order off. And
I remember money orders. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trina, next week you should get the postmaster in here to talk about getting money orders. All right. Wrap it up, Joe.
Yep. Well, it's been awesome talking with you, Jeremy. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to let everybody who's been watching along know where they can find you in all of the different places you may be online or in Meet Space or wherever they can catch up with what you're working on.
Please do not look for me in Meat Space. That's
123 Fake Street.
That's right, exactly. I live in Anytown, USA. No, you can find me on social media these days on Blue Sky as J Parish, JPARISH. But I show up pretty often on the Retronauts podcast. I publish every week to my YouTube channel every Wednesday. That's Jeremy Parish because I'm very creative. And of course, there's a good chance that if you buy a deluxe edition of something at Limited Run Games, that you will find something that I created inside of it. Currently, I'm working on Castlevania Dominus maps, getting those finished, finishing up the last edits on the Ninja 5.0 strategy guide, the Tomba strategy guide, and the pack-in books for Astro Ninja Man and 8-Bit Music Power Encore. So those are projects where my face appears. And also, I do publish books there. Currently, we're running pre-orders for the NES Era Volume 2, which is a coffee table style book, 12 by 12, of kind of like what I was talking about earlier. All the games that shipped for consoles in the US from the time the NES launched through the end of '87, not just NES games, but Master System, Atari 2600, 7800, Intellivision, Atari XE game system, and even 3 Atari 5200 games that somehow slipped through in those latter days at the very end. And I think actually the book ends with Gremlins for 5200. So that's limitedrungames.com. That's up for pre-order until December 1st. After that, the only way you can get it is to wait until it's published a year from now and hope that you can snag one of the extra copies of it. So
Great.
it's going to be awesome. I'm super excited about these books. I can't wait to force people to put them on their coffee tables. Yes.
Copy.
Awesome.
And I think that's it.
Very cool.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Jeremy, for coming on tonight and dealing
Yeah,
with
thanks for having me.
us and our
Thank you.
our extreme levels of superior podcast professionals.
No, it's great. I had forgotten all about postal money orders, so this was a trip down memory lane. Really,
Real trip down memory lane.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cool.
Trina shows her age.
So we're going to move on into the general show chat segment where we talk about what's been going on in our own little neck of the woods. Jeremy, you can hang around if you like. Ron has something he wants to do. He's pointing.
Yeah, sorry. I am traveling today. I need to get back on the road so that I'm still like 3 hours. Well, no, I'm actually 4 hours from home. So I can get home before tomorrow. I need to leave now. So Jeremy,
Cool.
Thank you so much for coming on. I really
thanks for
appreciate you
having me
taking
on.
time. I know it took a little time for us to kind of get this all together, but we really do appreciate you coming and talking.
Yeah.
to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm
It's
glad.
been an
but-
absolute pleasure, sir.
Glad I could be
Yes.
on here. I do need to take off. I promised my wife that I'd catch the new episode of The Penguin with her, so I got to maintain those important,
It is
solemn
good.
promises, those vows.
Yes.
That's what marriage is
Yes.
all about.
Thank
So,
you very much,
Thanks
Jeremy.
again for having me
Thank
on.
you.
Thanks everyone who watched.
Right.
It was
Thank
See
you.
you guys
Thank
later.
you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate that.
And Ron,
Ron's gone.
Ron,
Thank
safe
God they're
travels.
gone. No, I'm kidding.
I know, right? Now it's just
so-
now it's the inmates that are running the asylum.
Yeah, I know,
Ah!
right? Yeah, here all professionalism out the window.
Correct.
Jeremy was an awesome guest. I was
Oh, yeah.
super thrilled to hear about his stories about what he's been doing for the past 20 years. Very insightful, honestly. I had not heard really of him at all. And now that I do, now I have like things to watch in bed while
Yep.
I'm drifting off to sleep and can learn things about the video
Same.
game industry. So I have new things to watch. So if you guys all out there haven't heard of Jeremy, go find his stuff. I was just looking through some of his back catalog in the background while we were here, and super interesting stuff.
Yep.
General show chat is what our notes say. And this is where we do gets working, and that's it. So Linky Doodle. Yes, here, let me get a Linky Doodle for everybody. I will put that up on the screen real quick. Copy.
And by the
Linky.
way, I just while Joe's doing that, I want to say hi to a few folks. We have Ronica Explains. We have
Yeah.
Chris Angelis. I'm trying to think of who else has been joining us.
Sean Fake is here.
Faye's
Sloopy
yeah.
showed up. Eric's here.
Yeah,
Eric
Mike.
Edge
Yes.
is here. Yeah.
And I got an
Oh.
Apple III.
Yes. Yes. Is your room extremely hot and smell like exploded reefas yet?
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah,
just because he
yeah.
hasn't had a shower in a while.
Oh, you mean the computers? No, yeah.
Oops, I didn't mean to hide that comment. I wanted that comment to stay up. I want that to stay up. Rich is here. Hi, Rich. So let's talk a little bit about what's been going on in our little crazy worlds. Javier, you go first.
Well, I took out this little buddy that it's like it's a computer and also a full exercise for you. So, both, because this monitor is also very, very heavy.
Yes.
So I took them out because I'm gonna try to repair this drive, the external drive, because now I got an adapter doodle for this one for using a normal Apple II drive. But also for the gets, I got some goodies that I forgot to mention. I got a rollerball or whatever it's called, trackball.
Trackball.
And then this is the funny one that I got. It's Mouse Systems Mini Mouse, I think it's called, something like that. And it's a the optical mouse for the Mac 2 or the Mac ADB.
Oh, cool.
Like a really early optical mouse?
Really early optical mouse. And I
Wow.
don't think it uses a pad. So it's really a normal optical mouse.
It doesn't use like the inductive grid type of thing with
No.
specialized dots. It
No.
does actual camera tracking. Gotcha.
So I got it retrobrighted, but as you can see, there's difference. But
Wow.
I just got it like 2
And
days ago.
Javier, if you don't like it after you retrobrite it, Trina's Technobab will always accept channel donations.
I love it. No, but it's really weird. It's strange. It's thin, different than the other ones. That's why I got it.
You keep groping that in a very specific manner, Javier.
Because I'm weird, you know me.
Sean's asking, Javier, do you have the pad?
No. Don't tell me that this needs a pad. Sean knows more than me. Pretty sure it needs a
He
pad.
says-
Yeah, he said
I
pretty
don't
sure
know.
it needs one.
Well, if we can find here's the thing about it. It's
I'll figure it
basically
out.
just tracking a specific set of colored dots in a specific
Yeah.
manner. So you could probably, I don't know,
It may
find
be
the pattern
redoable.
online and print it and then
Yeah.
laminate it.
It may. I don't know. So I'm.
Even almost 3D printed into a mouse pad.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm sure there's ways to do them, but I think it is not, because they also have another one with 2 buttons. And remember, this is not the Apple II ones. This is the Mac. This is ADB. So I think they were a little bit more advanced at that time, but I'm still not sure. We'll see.
My comment though is because of the fact that you make your own ADB capable mice, optical mice, like who needs that, right? It's like,
Well, I don't do ADB yet.
oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
have you
You're doing the quadrature. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. You're doing like Mac Plus and Apple.
But when
IIcs.
you do the ADB,
Yep.
you have a customer.
And also, oh, by the way, just looking at this, I got my Mac because I was testing. Godbomb and I did an adapter for the joystick. There's a game called MacMan that uses a joystick, and it comes with an adapter. And of course, I put it somewhere. But we just did a quick run for them, and I was testing them before I put them on the store. So they're on the store right now. They're adapters to use only on the old Macs, on the Plus, 512, and 128. They have a mouse port, the same serial mouse port than the Apple II. So you can put this adapter, and it recognizes an Atari joystick, so you can play certain games that uses that. So that's what I got it for. So I'll show it later. But anyway, yep,
Cool.
that's it. That's all I got.
That's it. Gosh, have you been sleeping? Yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
I wanted to be like Trina.
Trina, what's going on in your world, lady?
What's going on in my world? Guess who has 2 thumbs and got a job that she's starting tomorrow?
That
Right
lady
here.
right there.
Right here. I'll be doing. So one of the things that my boss has said. By the way, I got a cat who. I feel like I have a squawkers on my shoulder right now.
Kind of.
My new employer, who's also a friend of mine, who buys e-waste computers and then flips them.
Oh, nice.
That's all I can say about that, because I can't say who the e-waste person is and stuff because of contracts. So I'm going to be doing that. She also has a shed full of beige Macs that apparently all need to be recapped. Thankfully, the batteries have been pulled. And guess who will be assigned the job of doing the recap as I work there? Yeah.
You're going to learn so quickly about
Right?
trace repair.
Yep.
Yeah.
You'll know how to do your stuff.
Yep.
Good for you.
Do you need me to send you your inaugural scalpel?
Yes, actually, please. One thing too, as a sad note, I am, as Ryan has mentioned, I am leaving the Old World Tech Fridays as a host. It's a 2-hour commute each way. So the person and I, because there's 2 of us that work there, I'm meeting her tomorrow in person for the first time. And because I have no idea how to get there from downtown Toronto. So it takes 2 hours each way. So we don't get there we don't really start till about noontime. And we go till about 8 or 9, and then it's a 2-hour trip back. So, and I work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So I unfortunately can't be back in time to be a host on the Old World Tech Fridays. So I will just come in on Saturdays and leave nasty comments in the comment section. But yeah, so that's what's been going on in my world. Also, for those of you who've been watching my live streams, I have been buying a lot. My soldering equipment has expanded because I was working on a
Good.
laptop motherboard this week, which unfortunately went south. There's 2 pins that I could not for the life of me. We tried. I had Sloopy, the amazing Sloopy, Gut Bomb, Joe, Amber. And
I just to be clear, after I gave her advice, her house caught fire. So
yes, yeah.
just putting that out.
This is a reproduction. This is actually a photo behind me.
Yeah. This is a Zoom background. It's fine.
Right, with just me and Opie.
Opie is absolutely become attached to you. It's insane.
Yeah, big
But
time.
the funny part is, I did this stream. I've done 3 streams where I've sat here for a bit. This is the first time. It seems to be Sunday night. She just wants to be part of me.
She's like, it's bedtime now.
Yeah.
You need to be asleep now, Mom, because I want to be asleep. And when you're not
I
asleep, I have to be awake to guard.
I have told the cats about the new job. They're really gonna find out tomorrow when I leave here a little before 9 because I got to meet her at Union Station around 9:30, and yeah, it's gonna take roughly a little under half an hour, but I want to get there give myself some wiggly time to, because Union Station is a rat's nest of a maze, and I always get lost in it. So
It reminds me of the time Graham and I were in New York, and I think we were at Grand Central for something or other and got lost. Yeah.
One thing I did pick up this week, since we're talking about our gits, is this electric manual desoldering gun thing.
It's for everybody watching. It is technically speaking an automatic sucking machine.
Yes, but you still have to manually push down this before.
Yeah, but it does the sucking automatically.
Yeah. You just press the button.
It is a manually activated automatic sucking machine.
That's electric.
Yes.
And I've nearly burnt my place down a couple times with this. We have.
She followed my advice. She almost burnt the place down. I mean, it is what it is.
But I will admit, for the pads that I could get, sorry, cattail in my mouth. For the pads that I could get cleaned out, that did the job. That little sucker did the job. So I'm super happy with it. I didn't buy it. Obviously the Hacko one, I just don't have the money. This was like a $25 Amazon purchase in Canada, probably like $3 on Amazon.com. But yeah, I'm super happy with it. I also have picked up more stuff for the soldering. I got some Kapton tape. I got more getting an adult.
I can see the anger behind your eyes.
I have no idea what's going on right now. I'm busy with the cat. Yeah,
it's fine.
I bought Kapton tape. I bought more. Yeah, so my bin, but I have no idea where the hell it is. The bin that I normally keep my soldering stuff is going to start to get more and more full. But yeah, so that's what's been going on in my world. But yeah, I had the client call me yesterday, and I'm like, I'm pulling the plug. And I kind of explained the situation. Then today I took my phone with me and I showed him a picture of the vias that still had the gunk in it and what was cleared out. And I said, I just can't get these two for the life of me out. So.
Yep.
And I said, unfortunately, I can't put your new ports in to find out. And I said, it may be just a board issue because one thing I did find, I went looking on eBay to see, well, I did a search for the motherboard. I found lovely 2 posts about the motherboard, both working, both sold out. So, but then I looked for parts laptops, and there's 3 of them listed, but they're all dead. So I'm starting to wonder if there's a board issue. That's where the
same problem.
Yeah, right. That the USB-C ports don't communicate with the board. So I don't know, and I refuse to buy one to play with because they're $500. What people want for these laptops broken that don't turn on, and I'm like, So that's been my world.
I'm sorry, Trina.
That's okay.
I'm sorry I almost caused you to catch your house on fire.
It wasn't you. It was myself,
Well,
actually. But
No, I know. I'm just.
I mean, hey, listen. If we're gonna blame somebody, let's blame Joe. Why not?
So, hi everybody. I'm Joe from Joe's Computer Museum. As you can see, I have lovely stuff here from my friend Steve. He sent me Eep on cardboard. Gets and what you working on? Oh my gosh. So I'm going to take a moment to talk about some things that are related to Ron, since he's not here, since he had to run. One of the biggest things that I've been working on this week is fulfilling all of the orders for Ron's insanely popular set of items that he put on my website, Pico Micromax. So our wonderful friend Sean of Action Retro did a video last week about the Pico Micromac. I think it was on Sunday or something. And yeah, those sold out in hours. They were gone. They were gone. They all went gone. So crazy, crazy, awesome support for that. So much so that I have something like 120 people on the wait list for those.
Shit.
So yeah, we're gonna be busy cranking out those. So thank you everybody out there who heard about the Pico Micromac and they want one of these to be able to play with the the vintage Mac stuff without having to go through the whole process of wondering whether getting a Macintosh shipped is going to destroy something in shipping. Yes, good stuff. So awesome. Coming up tomorrow as well, we're going to be having a neat little podcast with, was it tomorrow or Tuesday? I don't remember exactly because my brain is stupid. It is very dumb. I literally am having to go to my own YouTube studio right now to see when my next video is. So I have to go to create and I have to go to go live. And it's going to tell me it is for November 4th. So it is tomorrow. Okay, just making sure. Yes, it is tomorrow. Hi, I have no brain. So tomorrow, it's going to be me and Ron and Gut Bomb and Michael, i.e. 8-bit, or I said 8-bit, 1-bit Fever Dreams. We're going to be having a stream tomorrow evening to talk about some really cool new stuff that are kind of related to each other. A couple of the things that Ron and 1-bit Fever Dreams are doing are very closely related to each other in their functionality. I'll just put it that way. And we wanted to talk about that. And also, Gutbomb has a new product that he wants to launch, and that launch will officially be tomorrow. And it's going to be awesome, and you're going to love it. So, yes, make sure that you catch up on that. Okay.
What time is it?
It is time. It is the time that I'm going to go back to my channel again and click on. I'm going to click on Go Live, which takes me to where I need to go to show the thing, and it is scheduled. I'm going to click this button. Can you tell I'm burning time? It is scheduled for 9 p.m. tomorrow.
Eastern.
The main reason is for considerations for our folks on the West Coast. We didn't normally do those things kind of like at 8, but 8 during the week, it's like dinner, like core dinner time on the West Coast. So we wanted to make sure we moved it out a little bit. So yes.
And I see Veronica Explains says,
yes,
I coordinate my Pico, that thing.
Yes.
But I can't say video with you, Joe.
Yes, absolutely. Veronica, I'm on, I don't know if we're on Discords together or whatever. If I am, you can find me there and we can do details. You can also just go to my website and shoot me an email or whatever and say, hey, when you want to do the thing, we'll figure a thing out. So no problemo. We can do that. Okay. I wanted to get that stuff out of the way. That's kind of like, how can we put it? Housekeeping. Housekeeping is done. Now, what have I been working on? Oh my God. This is plastic, by the way. So as many of you know, Gutbomb has created a super awesome project called the SE Mini in combination with a lot of the bits and pieces that Ron has designed to allow you to, here, I actually have one here that I printed. It's this thing, right? It allows you to make a full Macintosh SE in a tiny little case like this that you can then put a regular like LCD monitor on top of, and then you've got an SE, and you don't have all that old prone to failure high voltage junk in there anymore, right? It's really, really cool. And I wanted to be able to have an option for folks who don't have 3D printers to be able to purchase a completed case, basically. And on top of that, I wanted this case. I wanted to have the full size case, that's all in one piece, because most printers aren't big enough to print something like this. So I went out, and with help of one of our wonderful community members, Tech Ambrosia, also known as Amber, who is not Trina, just so we don't get confused. Tech Ambrosia, in her suggestions, I went with the Solal SV08. Can I show it? Is it visible there? Are my lights off? It's the big white one on the left there. Yeah, the big bright one. But I got that printer, and I've been going through a lot of, how can we say, problems with the printer. And we found, after her wonderful stream, it was either earlier today or yesterday, I don't remember exactly when it was. I think it was last night. Her wonderful stream, and then later today she was on Trina's stream again to prove that they're different people. Stinkerton, you silly goat. Yeah, here you go. Yeah, see, like, no, Ryan, no, they're not. Yes, last night. Brain. She was printing out stuff on her printer live on that stream, coming out perfect. Mine, however, has, as you can see by the grid and all these like circles and stuff, I have all these high spots and low spots and stuff that my bed sensor just can't get rid of. The original bed sensor didn't work. I upgraded to a BL Touch, which actually makes physical contact with the bed with a little probe. That was worse in ways. Okay. And then I upgraded to what's called the M12 inductive probe, which is, aside from the what's called the clicky probe, it's like the best non-contact probe that you can get. It still doesn't work well. And we've come to the conclusion, at the very least, that I probably have electrical gremlins in this house. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that this rack right here is currently live at approximately 55 volts AC. And if I touch something on the floor in the wrong spot, I'll get shocked. Has nothing to do with that. No, I can't. No, folks are saying, return and get another one, an RMA. I don't feel like taking the stupid thing apart to do that. And I'll get into some details about what was going on with it. But I've come to the conclusion, when you look at, I don't have one yet. Here's the first bad print with the newest inductive probe. Here's the upside. The M12 probe is, at least, it's bad, but it is consistently bad. It is incorrect every time in the exact same way, which means we can massage it out.
Yeah, I would say the same.
Touch was wrong constantly. Like, I would do two meshes back to back and they'd be completely different. So you can't. Yes.
Yeah, get an APC.
I still don't think that's going to work. I'll tell you why. So you need to sanitize is there a way to sanitize your electrical supply to the printer? Maybe. So as you can see, there's this big section right here. You see this big blob here. If you look really close, you can see it's all rippled. That's because the print head was too close to the bed. And so it was kind of mushing and pushing up the filament. Weird. And then there's a section like right in here where it's too far from the bed. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah.
Can you see how you can see light through it?
Mm-hmm.
It's because it was too far from the bed. This section right here, I'm not sure about, but you know what's right underneath this section inside the inside of the printer?
What?
The microcontroller that controls the printer.
Oh.
So there's noise in that area. Do you know what also my house doesn't have? It doesn't have grounds. There are no grounds. It's live and neutral and an empty hole in the wall where the ground pin goes. If anything on this printer is designed so that that ground is actually supposed to be cross-tied to real ground, that ground's going to be floating. So it's going to have noise. All of the motors and everything are just going to be radiating noise in through that board and all over the place. So that's my theory. So Can I get grounding in that room? No. It's like too far away from anything to do reliably. So it's not going to happen. That's the other problem.
Can you get the outlet rewired? Like bring
in this house without tearing the walls apart? No.
Oh, okay.
There are no copper wires. There's a pair of wires for every outlet. It's not. There's no third copper wire in the wall. It's not there.
So you'd have to completely rewire the house, as Eric said. Yeah.
Bingo. Yes. The APC is easy and might solve it. That's great. Every single APC of my house has a building wiring fault light that's on. I'm staring at one right up there. So I'm not sure it still won't. I'm not sure it's going to solve that ground problem. It might be able to like bootleg it over to neutral. Maybe I can try, and I could try putting it on an APC. The thing with putting putting motorized things on UPSs is it likes them to trip their voltage all the time, and then you go beep 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 beep, and they'll be making beeping noises, and it'll bother the crap out of me. So
Amber didn't say anything about that because she puts hers on UPS.
She also doesn't have electricity.
yeah, true enough.
A lot of
I just want to quickly interrupt for a sec. Veronica, I sent you a message with Joe's username on Discord if you haven't been communicating in the past. So I just check your private messages.
Everything Broken Garage to say run a wire to your standpipe or main water feed. Yes, the printer is all the way over there. All the way over there. My water feed is all the way over here. So that would require me to run a copper wire halfway across my house. I already have, you all have not met Graham, but you have heard of Graham. Graham is the love of my life. He doesn't like random wires hanging across the house. So that's not going to happen. I'm not going to do that. Well, I enjoy being alive.
There is an option. Yes. Move your printer back over here.
This is the whole purpose I moved it over there, is to quiet this area down and get more room.
And that printer is noisy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they're huge. Like I physically don't have room to move those printers back over here. Okay. Like I only really have room over here for the one bamboo. Now I have two bamboos and a Soval. Like it's not gonna. Yeah. Is there any pipe in your printer area at all? No. In the ceiling, underneath a finished drywall.
Send the printer to somebody else.
Yeah, like you. Would you like a printer? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I'm just saying channel donations again. Trina's Technobabble takes channel donations all the time.
And like Sean said, run it out a window. There is no window that is openable.
Yeah.
That is any nearer to the printer than the pipe, because I'm in the basement.
Yeah.
Am I in a basement? A new dedicated circuit should be pretty easy, and electrical work might save lots of other annoyances. Yes, I'm in the basement, but it's a finished basement.
Yeah.
So any wiring that I add, I have to rip out the walls.
And that means...
See my finished ceiling? See it? See it?
Yeah.
See it? Yes.
Veronica's asking any conduit.
Any conduit you can run a ground wire to. Okay, so I love you all. I'm going to show you the room real quick. Let me turn the light on. The room it is in is this room right here. The floor is concrete.
Yeah.
The floor is concrete with carpet. The walls are concrete. Full concrete with wood paneling. And the ceiling is drywall. There is nothing in there I can connect anything to. Not without running like wires all over the house. And I get yelled at when I do that. So that's not going to happen. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm complaining. Well, here's the thing. Because the problem, as you can see, I've managed to get most of the issue out. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so, do you have an air vent in that room for the central air? Ooh, I'm gonna give you one better. You hold on there. Everything is broken. Because it is consistently incorrect, that means I can correct it manually. So this is the first time I took a bed mesh right here. This is the default bed mesh. And what I've been doing is I've been literally manually hacking the bed mesh values to pull these problems out. Like pulling dents. I'm just going boop, boop. I'm just adding a tiny little bit of English or adding a little bit and do that. So yes.
What about putting
pulls off easily for access? It's solvable.
What about putting a metal mesh in between the bed and the electronics, so you can?
No.
Okay.
Not doing that. Everything is broken garage. It's like, do you have an air vent in the room for central air? Yes, there is an air vent like this. It's in the ceiling, and I could probably get away with running a wire up there. But you want to know what? You see this air vent, that air duct? It's live at 120 volts. You can't touch it and touch anything else. You can't connect that to ground. You'll trip a breaker. This house is not wired right. Yeah.
Okay. So
if I take a multimeter and touch that vent and touch the concrete floor, I get 55 volts across it.
Send Trina the printer.
So yeah.
So here's what we're gonna.
Live. Oh yeah, it's tingly. It's nice. It depends on where I'm standing on the floor. Yeah, it's good. It's awesome.
So tonight we are gonna start a GoFundMe called "Buy Joe a New House."
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's grounded
the thing,
house.
What it is there are in a couple of places in the house, I think there are grounded outlets where they bootlegged neutral to ground. And so technically anything that is then tied to that loop is technically on neutral. Which means if you touch a neutral wire that is in circuit and then you touch ground, you're technically going between live to ground depending on what the circuit is. So yeah, no, none of this running of any of all of these things is ever going to happen. I need to make friends with an electrician. No, I need to make friends with somebody who has time. Like I know it's a fixable problem. It all requires like Veronica, I just rewired my base. It has a ton of work. Yeah. I rewired this space over here by running an electrical cord all the way across and out to the basement, which I already hear at least once a week complaints about from my better half because he's smarter than me. To the one outlet in the house that is actually truly grounded, and it's over there in the garage. Yes. So yeah. Do you have enough room in a yard to build a shed garage that is properly wired? Curtis, again, would you like to come and talk to my wonderful husband?
Yeah.
Who doesn't want me to do that. Again, I make it sound like he's complaining. No, it's because he's smarter than me. He's the one who knows that my ideas are crazy, and I probably shouldn't do them.
Although at this point, the shed idea is starting to sound good with proper grounding.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be a shed per se. It would be an addition to the house, is the way I would do it.
Right.
And basically, the backyard is right through there, and I already have a doorway. I can extend that and create that as a hallway that then connects to another door or sally port that will then go through and into an addition on the other part. I could technically make that other part a garage. I could probably get away with that and make it like a dual bay garage and just never open the doors. Right. And then insulate the doors. Put a mini split in there for heating, cooling, and be done with it. And then it would be properly wired at that point because we could bring our own, feed off the main panel, which is literally right there, and run it across. But yeah, just run a 500-watt gas generator in the printer room. Problem solved. Yes.
There you go.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you think Joe's crazy now, wait till he gets on the gas fumes.
What?
You're right.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're supposed to print with carbon fiber, not carbon
monoxide. Yeah. Love it.
So that's all that's going on in my world. Other than that, I'm just playing catch up. I want to get the printer done so I can get those prints kicked out and start actually being able to produce a reliable. And that's the thing is I don't want to print something I'm going to be selling to people as a product where it does that. That's bad shit.
Although there was a suggestion on my live stream today. So we found out that Amber is not a fan of flying, which fair enough. No, not everybody is. So we're Amber and I, because people think we're the same person anyway. I'm gonna fly to the people's locations, such as Joe, and help do the calibration with Amber. We're gonna do a
That's right.
FaceTime over Discord, and we'll just
Yep.
ta-da.
Yes.
So that's gonna be the
Trina's,
solution.
yeah, Trina's gonna come over and we're gonna hang out.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
literally, but yeah. Mhm. Yes. So that's
Solder
what's going on.
fumes are better, according to Catherine. Hi,
I've
Catherine.
got lots of other things I got to get working on. I have James Noyes from Kansas Fest this year in June or July or whatever gave me this. It is now November and I still haven't fixed it for him yet. Hi, James, if you're watching, I'm sorry it's taking me so long. Sean Fahey, who was here, I've got like 5 boards I need to fix for him. I still got to get done, just stuff. And I want to get back to the Spectrogens. You know, I want to get that project up and running and just like have that running as my streaming on YouTube. So that'd be cool.
Yep.
Speaking of Sean Fahey, Sean, have we figured out if Javier's mouse needs a special trackpad?
What?
Before we leave.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It needs a trackpad. I just see it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think he said he contacted you on the the Discords.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't see that message.
So yeah, it sucks.
Well, if nobody has anything else, I think it's time to wrap it up. We're running a little bit long, but that's okay. You know, I sat here and talked for 25 minutes about my own problems, but that's fine.
That's what you do every show, so we're used to it now.
I'm not a whiny, complaining old white man. It's fine. Trina, where can people find you?
Where can people find me? Go to trinastech.com, right here ish, and you can find all my links to all my online presence, as well as my coffee account. So if you can afford it, feel free to drop a donation.
Now she doesn't actually drink coffee; she drinks energy drinks. But it's
I do drink coffee though, and energy
well, buy her a coffee then. Do it. Joe says do it, or he'll get angry with you. Javier.
8bitstuff.com.
8bitstuff.com.
Oh yeah, 8bitstuff.com.
So is 8bit?
Where you can find cool stuff.
Is 8bit Tees dead then, or
no? 8bit Tees is alive and kicking.
Okay, all right.
But it's
we didn't need to see your man chest. Come on.
And stuff is for 3D printed stuff. Gotcha. Oh yeah. So we have Guard suggested me to do some black 2C converters, so I got a few of this.
Are you going to make clear ones for the SE30 clear, or for the
Yep. I already am printing it.
Brain.
Already been there, done that, and of course I got the joysticks, and I'm gonna have a limited solution, limited print of the mouse, clear mouse. I don't have it with me right now, but they're gonna arrive pretty soon. So just if people want, just for you to know. So that's it. Just being worky, pushing.
Cool.
And you know where to find it.
8-bit tees and 8-bit stuff.
And by the way, Sean, you're not really the bringer of disappointing news. I mean, that's when I was disappointed as soon as I came in and saw Javier tonight. So, like, you're fine.
Know, we have to sit here and look at his ugly mug. And
right.
That's the only one I have, unfortunately.
And Javier disappoints himself with 12 volts to ground. So
every day.
And all I have to say is, Trina, the next time me and Javier are in the same place at the same time, you're going to be surprised at how short he is.
Yeah, I'm very short. I'm just trying to pull myself up.
Yeah. His camera's like way up here, and he's like aiming it down. He's like, "Hi, I'm really tall. I promise."
I am tall.
So we're gonna have Javier, Steve, and Eric's Edge then all doing We All Love the Lollipop.
Steve's not short.
Oh, okay.
He's like 5'11". He's like
okay. All right.
Javier's like 4'2".
4'2".
No, I think I'm 3.
Oh, 4'3". I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take an inch off.
No, I meant
every man
3.
needs that extra inch.
That extra inch
3'1",
makes a difference.
3'2".
Yeah. And Javier, of course, is now kind of. I just want to say he's flying solo, so to speak, and his products are very important to him. and his revenue stream. So if you want to help Javier, go out to his site, get a couple of his cool things. He will greatly appreciate that.
If only
Yeah,
he sold them on jcm-1.com.
Make sure it goes all the way into the corner, Javier. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then, last and certainly least, according to me, and man, I need a haircut. Joe's Computer Museum. Hi, I'm Joe's Computer Museum. You can find me on jcm-1.com. If you want to follow me on my socials and stuff, I have links to it all up there. Or you can, pick up a blue scuzzy or a t-shirt or something, and that helps me out. And I will go ahead and give a shout out to our wonderful friend Ron, who had to hop out. If you want to follow Ron and his crazy shenanigans, which are absolutely hilarious, Ron has the best sense of humor. You want to go to ronscompvids.com, and he has links to all of his social media, his YouTube, and all of that, so you can follow up with what Ron is doing in the scene. And then finally, again, don't forget our wonderful guest, Jeremy. Go check him out. Like I said, I was checking out his stuff while I was
Very good.
while I was listening to him talk, and just like outstanding stuff there. So go check out Jeremy. Tell your friends. That is all for tonight. Thank you all for hanging out with us and hanging out an extra 15 minutes with us while we rambled on like idiots. I mean, me rambling on like an idiot. It's fine. Remember to hit that like button if you liked the show, and if you liked our guests, that'd be great. Remember to hit the dislike button if you were, tired of me rambling on like a moron tonight. YouTube considers likes and dislikes exactly the same to the algorithm. Hit whatever button you want. I don't care. But if you do want to know when things are going to come up next time, you can hit subscribe. You get notifications, and hit the bell thingy if that's still a thing. I don't know.
And we only do this on the first and third Sundays of the month, so you're not going to get inundated with a bunch of.
Yep, 2 shows a month, 24 a year. We keep it lighthearted and easy. So come around on Sundays, every couple Sundays, and hang out with us, and we will do the fun thing. The next show is on November the 17th, and we don't have a guest yet. So if you know somebody who out there who has some really cool story to tell, something related to vintage computing, vintage or vintage video games, vintage electronics, vintage telecom, even arcade games, anything kind of in that area, and you think to be a good guest, go ahead and get a hold of us. You can yell at me on my website, or any one of us. Get a hold of us, send us a notadoodle on an actual comment on the stream later, and we'll get notified of that.
And don't forget to join us on December 1st for our 69th episode.
It's December 1st, episode 69.
It is, yeah.
Trina, you need to have another ladies episode. That's what you need to do.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Come on, chop,
Trina. Possibly for the new year.
Yes. So we'll do that. So thanks everybody for stopping by. It was great, and have a great evening. Bye. Everybody. Bye.